Thank you all for being here. Just before I really get started on this talk, I'd like to explain a bit about my talk title, just explain the context, because there's probably some people here who are looking at that title really having no idea what I'm referencing at all. So I'm just going to tell you a quick story. What happened was earlier this year, I was sitting at a conference. I was talking to a friend. I won't mention any names, but this friend of mine was, encouraging me to talk at this event. And I started thinking, well, what could I talk about? And my friend encouraged me to talk about an experience that I've had, some lessons that I've learned that I could share so that other people might benefit from kind of my experience. So that got me to thinking about how I came to join Pivotal. And I actually joined Pivotal through the Pivotal acquisition of CloudCredo. So that's how the idea of my talk was born. And then, when you write a talk submission and you're trying to come up with a catchy talk title that will make people curious, they'll want to come, they'll want to find out what you're talking about. So this idea started playing in my mind about, here was this little company, CloudCredo. We got acquired by a bigger company, Pivotal. And some of the consequences that could happen through an acquisition. And then these ideas were going around in my mind, and then this song popped into my head, and then I was kind of stuck. And I had to stick with it, and I sort of talked to a few people at this event, and they had no idea what I was talking about. So just to ensure that we're all on the same page before I start, I have a very short video that I would just like to play for you, just so you can kind of understand what I'm talking about.
My dad would say, hey son, you can't dance that way. If you know someone that you like lots, show them the fish in the cardboard box. Okay, we're gonna teach you how to rave. This is part one. Big fish, little fish. 1, 2, 3, 4. Big fish. Big fish. Big fish. Cardboard box. Big fish, little fish. Big fish, little fish. Big fish, little fish. Cardboard box. Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. We're all raving mad.
Okay, phew, so now we've got that out of the way, I can get started. Hi. Welcome to my talk. My name is Paula Kennedy. I am the Director for Business Operations for EMEA Services at Pivotal. I joined Pivotal at the end of 2015 as part of the acquisition of CloudCredo. And previously at CloudCredo, I was the co-founder and Chief Operating Officer. So today I'm going to be talking about how this big-ish fish company acquired this little fish company, and how one of the kind of possible consequences could have been that we could have been, put in a box and kind of tucked under a desk in the corner and kind of left. You see, now my talk title is making sense. But what I'm going to actually explain is what really happened, some of the lessons that I learned through this process, and then how we can actually kind of use those lessons in other situations. So let me start off just by talking about the acquisition itself. It's best if I kind of give you the background about CloudCredo. So CloudCredo was actually founded in 2012. Funnily enough, I actually filed the incorporation documents when I was sat on vacation in the Luxor hotel here, just down the strip. It was really the idea of our CEO, Colin Humphreys. And the story behind that is really, he was using Cloud Foundry in 2012. He actually used it to deploy a few applications to production. In those days, it was quite tricky. It was actually kind of prior to Pivotal being formed as it is today. But he struggled through and he used it. And that was really the beginning of his kind of love affair with Cloud Foundry. So he, after having gone through the process, he could really see the vision behind Cloud Foundry. He understood the benefits. He saw how it could really be used by developers, by operators, by enterprises. He really kind of fell in love with Cloud Foundry. And that led to him having also a close relationship with Pivotal. In fact, in 2013, he went to San Francisco for 3 months, which kind of became the forerunner to the Dojo program. He immersed himself fully in kind of Pivotal, and that led to his kind of love affair with Pivotal as well. He immersed himself fully into the Pivotal way, and he came back to the UK and he set out his vision for CloudCredo. So we decided how we were going to help our customers. We were going to help them use Cloud Foundry, deploy it, install it, customize it, but we were going to do it in kind of the Pivotal way. We were going to embrace fully the values of XP, so fast feedback, simplicity, communication, as well as the practices, so test-driven development, pair programming, and that was kind of the model that Colin set in place, and that's how CloudCredo really established itself. So after a lot of hard work, and quite a lot of luck as well, we became a successful company. So there's some photographs here from the summit in Berlin, the Cloud Foundry Summit, which was in 2015. And by the time of that summit, we had grown to be, a successful company. We had around about 25 people. And we worked with several members from the Cloud Foundry Foundation, some really big name companies. And you can see from some of these photographs that at that Berlin event, we had a really significant presence. We delivered some of the training, we sponsored the diversity lunch, we had talks and keynotes, and we really felt by that point that we were a key part of the Cloud Foundry community. As to our relationship with Pivotal, that continued all the way through as well. So we were very close with Pivotal. We were actually very lucky to have some free office space from Pivotal for a while. They let us move into their old London office, which was a great benefit to us as well. So, there was a really close working relationship throughout that 3-year period. But when you're in a relationship with someone and they say, you don't really know someone till you live with them. So the question for us was, how would it be different from being a close partner of Pivotal to becoming a part of Pivotal? So, as you can imagine, there was a period of adjustment. Now, at the time that this was going on, a lot of people came up to me and were asking, how's it going? How do you feel? I think people thought I might have answered a bit like this, but in actual fact, it was probably, my answer was a bit more like this. Now, the due diligence process itself was quite tough. Anyone who's ever gone through an acquisition will understand where I'm coming from. I mean, really, it was a lot of kind of boxes to tick, a lot of hoops to jump through. It's not an easy thing to go through that due diligence process, but there were a couple of people at Pivotal that really made it as smooth and as painless as possible. I need to just give a special thanks to Mike Maxey and the corporate development team, and to Louise Willoughby-Petit, who's in the HR for EMEA. She was fantastic as well. So we had a lot of support. We went through this process. Took about 2 months altogether from start to finish, which I guess is pretty quick. By the end of that process, we had all our ducks in a row. We were, kind of ready to go. So we announced it internally to our team, and then we announced it to the world on the 21st of December, 2015. And you can imagine there was a lot of buzz, excitement, lots of tweets, lots of high fives and fist bumping and all the usual kind of stuff. And then it was Christmas. So, everyone took off, Christmas vacations, kind of everyone disappeared for a bit. Had a nice break. I have to say, under the Kennedy Christmas tree, there was a few extra presents. It was all kind of very nice. And then after the New Year's Eve parties had faded and the hangovers were gone, we were sort of faced with a new reality. Now, for some people, there was no real concern at all. If you take Colin, for example, he was supremely confident everything was going to be fine. And for some of our team who had been based in that London office and had worked with Pivotal and knew the Pivotal people, they were probably quite relaxed about it as well. But then we had some team members who had never worked in that office, some of our newer team members, and who didn't know Pivotal as well as some of the others. And I think, to be honest, I was probably the most nervous. So I had been that person that was the most remote from the day-to-day working with Pivotal kind of on the ground. And also as my role as Chief Operating Officer, I wasn't sure where I was going to kind of fit in. I mean, I did call Bill Cook out and see if he wanted to have a fight to see who would end up as Chief Operating Officer of Pivotal, but he didn't take that challenge. So I guess the question is then really what happened? And the answer is there were lots of changes. So I've put up here some photographs of the old CloudCredo office, the shiny new Pivotal London office, and you can kind of get a sense there were some differences. And obviously going from a 25-person company to a 2,000+ person company is a big change. But there were, more opportunities, more people, bigger teams. We got to have more ping pong, nicer breakfasts, nicer snacks. I mean, there was a wide range of changes, actually. So if you ask me how we managed those changes, I think the answer is slowly and carefully. So in the first few weeks of January, pretty much everything stayed the same. We didn't rush into kind of trying to change everything at once. We tried to take, some small steps to kind of bring the CloudCredo folks into the family. So I'll give you some examples of those steps. In the first week, what we did was we had a welcome lunch. So all the CloudCredo folks, we came into the Pivotal office. There was a lunch that was catered for us. And we all got to sort of share food, get to know each other a bit. As part of that, we had a speech from Tamer Salah, who was, at the time, he was the Director of Engineering in that London office. And he gave a speech. He stood up and he, welcomed us all into the group. And there's a nice touch where he actually made that speech whilst wearing a CloudCredo t-shirt. Now, any of you that have seen Matt Curry's talk, Matt Curry from Allstate, he gave a talk at the Cloud Foundry Summit earlier this year about kind of the importance of t-shirts to culture. And it was a really nice thing that Tamer was wearing that CloudCredo t-shirt on the day that he welcomed us to Pivotal. And then the next thing that happened was we had a welcome from Onzi. So those of you that saw Onzi's keynote here at the summit, at the conference, I hope you understood that he's actually one of the nicest people you can meet. He's a genuinely really nice guy. He doesn't travel that much internationally. He has a young family. So for him to come all the way to the UK, just specifically to welcome us into Pivotal, really, made all of us feel genuinely kind of welcomed and special. Another event that we had obviously was kind of a drinks event. So that gave us a chance to socialize outside of the office. Again, Pivotal booked a place, catered for us, we all got to have a few drinks and get to know each other a bit more. And then one of the other things we ran was an internal jobs fair. So one of the great things, I think, for the CloudCredo team was by joining Pivotal, there were a lot more opportunities. So different offices we could work at, different teams we could join, different specialisms we could kind of look into. So within the office, we ran a jobs fair just to give a few kind of options to the team to explain what the roles were. And all of these measures that you see here, these were just kind of the most obvious things that happened as part of this process. There were also efforts from basically all of the pivots who were in the London office who really tried to make us feel welcome at all opportunities. Whether it was, asking us to go and play ping pong, asking us to kind of join them at the desks. It was all genuinely a big effort from the Pivotal people to make us feel welcome. And after a really short time, it felt like we were part of the family. I mean, how I persuaded all those people to get up and dance with my children, I'm not quite sure. But I think that's a reflection of really, how much we have just genuinely kind of joined together. And actually, Chris Headley, who was our Director of Engineering at CloudCredo, he said to me just the other day, there's no such thing these days as an ex-CloudCredo and a pivot. We're all one big happy family. We're all pivots together. So I guess it's a story with a happy ending. And it's been, a really positive experience. When you think about it, we weren't all just stuck in a cardboard box and stuck in a corner. We were genuinely welcomed into Pivotal at all levels within Pivotal. So as I've been thinking about this journey and all the things that have happened, it's allowed me to kind of reflect on the lessons that I've learned and then think about how we could apply those lessons in other situations. So if you think about it, there were lots of situations where you have something or somebody new meeting something kind of existing. So that could be, in our case, that was a whole new group of people joining an existing kind of company. But it could be the case that you have a new person join your company. It could be that you have a new team member rotates into your team. It could be that you run a meetup group and a new attendee comes who's never been before. Or it could be that you're running a client project and a client team all shows up on site kind of ready to go. But the thing is, nobody likes to be on the outside looking in. Nobody likes that feeling. So as I've gone through, like I say, this acquisition process, I think there's 4 themes that I'd like to call out for you all to consider when you see somebody else in this situation, that new person joining an existing situation. So the first theme is empathy. Now, empathy is one of those buzzwords that you kind of hear quite a lot in tech. It's actually a really hard skill. It's where you have to try and put yourself in someone else's shoes. But the thing is, we've all been that new person at some point. We didn't all wake up today and we've always been in the jobs we're in now. At one point, we've all been new. So I think the thing to try and imagine is, how did it feel when you were that new person? What would have put you at ease and made you feel kind of welcome and accepted? And then if you see someone else who's the new person, how could you then sort of think back to your situation and then apply those lessons? The next theme I'd like to call out is kindness. Now, for those of you who aren't part of Pivotal, you may not know, but Pivotal has 3 core values. Do the right thing, do what works, and be kind. Now, of those core values, I think be kind is probably my favorite one, because it's so simple, but so powerful. It doesn't take much to smile at somebody, say hello to them, ask someone how their day is going, but it's those little things that can really, set someone's kind of mind at ease and make them feel, a part of your group. One of the things we do at Pivotal is we have a stand-up every day. And we ask if there are any new faces, and then the new people wave and say hello, and then we all say welcome. Now, as a reserved English person, that felt a bit strange the first few times I did that, when it's like, welcome. But actually, it's a genuine effort to convey that we really want those new people to feel welcome when they come to our office. The next theme that I would like to just call out is kind of inclusion. So I attended a talk last year that was given by Jane Silber, who's CEO at Canonical, where she talked about the difference between diversity and inclusion. And she described it as, diversity is where you kind of invite someone to come in, but inclusion is where you give them the chance to rearrange the furniture. Now, diversity and inclusion, again, they're kind of buzzwords that we hear quite a lot. Cornelia gave a fantastic talk yesterday about diversity, and what she focused on was more the pipeline problem. She talked about, girls self-selecting out of computer science, and you can't be what you can't see, those kind of messages, which are genuine problems. But there's also a problem where, for those people who are kind of in underrepresented groups who are already in technology, we also need to make efforts to make them feel included. It's absolutely kind of vital to consider how you include people in genuinely important ways. It's not only about kind of inviting people in, it's about making those efforts so those people can absolutely kind of contribute significantly to the effort that's going on, so that we can actually benefit from those new people kind of experiences, from their backgrounds, so that we can actually become a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. The last theme I want to just highlight is around shared values. So one of my Pivotal colleagues, Casey West, he gives a fantastic talk on this. But really it's around, what have we got in common? So if a new person comes along, you might try to find some common ground, something that you can, relate to. And that can be quite hard. So if you take me, for example, I don't really like ping pong. And if you look at my video earlier, you might think I've got quite bad taste in music. But as you also saw from that video, I've got 2 small children. So in my spare time, I tend to find out quite a lot about Minecraft and My Little Ponies and football and those kind of things. Now, one of you, for example, you might not have children, and you might like some crazy sports like American football, which isn't real football, let me point out. And those are small differences. So, you know, we might have wider differences, like different gender, different religion, different political views, different sexual orientation. There could be more significant differences. But that's not what we should really focus on. What we should be focusing on is what are our shared values? What are we working towards together? So I mentioned the Pivotal values just before. And if you come and work at Pivotal, those values are set out for you very clearly. And we all agree to that's how we're going to work together. In the beginning of the conference yesterday, Andrew Clay Schaefer called out the code of conduct at this event. Again, it's another way of setting out, this is how we're all going to work together. We're going to treat each other with respect. And that's our kind of common goal, our common vision. It could also be when you're doing a new project, you have an inception meeting. And in that inception meeting, you should call out, you know, this is how we're going to work together. Once you've established those kind of shared values, and you understand that you're all working towards a kind of a common goal, then you can really start to also embrace the differences. So you can, you know, work out your different experiences. You can kind of, in that safe space, you can genuinely kind of learn from each other, share from each other's different experiences, and build that kind of common goals together. So I've just called out 4 themes, and to be honest, only touched on them very lightly. There's probably a separate talk on all of those different things. But what I would like to do is just highlight some of the talks and the people that have inspired me. So there was a talk earlier today from Sam Ramji, which will be available on YouTube soon, where he talked about kind of Zen and the art of platform. But what he was talking about was self and other, which when I heard that, it really resonated with me. It's so important about this kind of network effect of the positive sum game. And really the more we can kind of have more people that are included in the self, you know, the stronger we all are together. It really is a positive sum game. Nadia is an ex-pivot. She does a fantastic talk about code hospitality. So in her talk, she talks about if you have your code base that you've worked on for a long period, and then a new person comes and starts working on it, it's a similar principle. How can you make that new person feel welcome on your code base? And she does a fantastic talk about that. I mentioned Casey earlier, who talks about shared values, so I would recommend his talk. And Emma Jane Hogbin-Westby, she came and spoke at the meetup group that I run, and she talks about empathy. And she gives a very good talk about how empathy is a difficult skill, but it's something that everybody can actually work on and try to improve. So hopefully, in my talk, I've given you some ideas that you can try to apply in, like I say, in these different situations. So, and by sharing my story of having gone through this acquisition, I'm hoping, like I say, the next time that you see a situation where somebody is looking like they're on the outside, that you can try and think some of these themes that I've mentioned. I also just have a few thank yous I'd like to say. I'd like to say thank you to Colin Humphreys for bringing me on the kind of the CloudCredo journey. So it's been an adventure, let's put it that way. I feel like I have learned a lot over the last 3.5 years. It's been fun, and I'm looking forward to learning more. I'd also like to thank Pivotal for all the efforts that they have made to genuinely, like I say, bring us into the family, make us feel welcome. And finally, I'd like to thank the UK 90s rave music scene for having inspired the title of my talk. If anyone would like to learn the dance moves, then please come and find me. I'd be very happy to teach you the dance moves to the song. And that's it. Thank you very much.